The Mark of Kree is an early PlayStation 2 action-adventure game that manages to stand unique in that genre to this day. Among the many ways it has stood the test of time is a beautiful and familiar art style, which is what it's going to lead with right now.
Gather round, all of you who would listen. I have a tale to tell. A story of warriors and kings. A saga of dark magic. A legend of high adventure. Long ago, during the First Age, a series of dark spells were created. One of these spells had the power to bridge our world and the one of darkness. Evil spell with no purpose but that of destruction. Before it could be invoked, stolen, and broken into 6 separate parts, 6 lines, 6 incantations. The spell, however, was dark and powerful, and not easily destroyed. So instead it was hidden away in a place where none would find it, scattered about the world in 6 separate locations, 6 different families entrusted with its safekeeping. But men are mortal, and time can be the enemy of fear. All too soon we forget how the bee will sting and the fire will burn. As time passed, the families forgot what these marks were for. Mankind dismissed the ancient warnings about these words of power. They were merely stories, tales from a long past time. But the denizens of the world of darkness knew nothing of time. With infinite patience they waited. Then, after a millennia, to their dark joy, the spells were rediscovered.
Those live sketches are going to provide the majority of the storytelling for the game. While they were originally done as a cost-saving measure, I believe they remain one of the most visually appealing thing on the PlayStation 2 outside of Okami. They were all done by Jeff Merghart, worked as an animator on An American Tail, the Don Bluth movie, so the Disney influence is only 2 steps removed. As we enter the game proper, we'll be seeing visuals that don't hold up quite so well.
For years, my master had trained at the side of Baumusu, a noble warrior. He had become a fine swordsman, and his training was now almost complete. But why train if he was to stay in the safety of his home forever? My master was restless. It was time to move on, time to take his first step into manhood. His muscles yearned for action. His heart sought adventure. His sword craved combat.
Sort of an unfortunate comparison to put those back to back, but as we'll be seeing, the in-game art is not that far removed from the hand-drawn stuff. Fades together very nicely, I think. And even if the graphics don't hold up perfectly, the animations are flawless. Something to behold even to this day. Now, we start off in this mostly abandoned pub.
You want to train, boy? There's still a trick or two I can teach you with that sword of yours.
The aforementioned Baumusu will allow us to attack dummies if that's what we want to do. I think we've trained plenty enough at this point.
You want work, huh? I don't know. Business has been slow lately, boy. People tell me bandits have made our neighboring forest their home. Anyone trying to get here is being robbed, or worse. It's made Baumusu nervous. He thinks it's the beginning of dark times. I think they just need a good kicking before they'll move on to someone else's forest. Balmusa tells me you've become pretty good with that sword of yours. Maybe you could... Well, maybe I've got some other work around here you could do. How about washing down some tables for me, or mopping the floor? Well, maybe you can help Tati clean dishes, or sweep up, or pick up her after her. She's kind of a mess herself. People keep flushing foreign objects down the toilet, which is...
Well, lucky for the barkeep, we're pretty eager for action. Now here's our first tutorial pop-up. I'm going to be turning those off because they severely break the flow of the game. Our options are, in fact, very limited. This game has a very specific experience for the player in mind. These are our most notable options. Always show health and turn off hint messages. We won't be needing them. As I said, Rao's been training for quite a while. He's perhaps more than ready to take on some bandits that have been terrorizing his hometown.
Cleaning the floor and washing dishes. Ha! This was not the kind of work my master was looking for. He was young and in search of adventure, freeing the land from murderous bandits. Now that was a job worthy of a warrior. He left that same day, his sword strapped to his back. Kuzo, his spirit guide, scouting the path ahead. The bandits had been terrorizing the local roads for months now. Rao had heard that they were camped out in some local ruins. He had also heard that they were many in number and skilled as swordsmen. Good. Good. My master did not want this to be too easy.
For an untested warrior, that actually sounds like a very tall order. Let's hope Bamusu is a particularly talented teacher, and that we haven't bitten off more than we can chew here. Before we actually get into the combat, though, let's take our sword on a dry run. Seems like a very simple 4-swing combo. Very wide, cartoonish arcs to our swings, actually. Sword even leaves his hand for a second there. Very playful. Well, we may be getting into combat sooner than we bargained for, if that guy has spotted us. No, false alarm. Looks like our vision is much better than theirs. And it's going to turn out that vision is going to be one of our strongest assets, as Kuzo leads his way to that perch. He can scout ahead for us, let us know of enemy positions, and allow us an advantageous time to strike. From up on this higher perch, we'll be able to see the enemy encampment up above, and more importantly, the 3 guards up above the archway that we have to pass through. Seems like we know everything we need to. Let us face our first opponents in battle. Now, combat is actually much more complicated than the 4-swing combo I've demonstrated. We've got the focus beam. There's the 4-swing combo. It disarms and disables our opponent. Other combos are slightly less merciful. When we engage in particular brutality of that sort, enemies will refuse to approach us for a couple of seconds. That combo is meant to sweep the legs out from underneath an opponent to impale them, just as we did the last guy. Not quite necessary when they don't have a head anymore. There's another guy who dropped his sword not because we knocked it from his hand, but because we'd taken the life from him. So that was handled quite easily. Our hero is every bit as confident as he needs to be, it looks like. And up ahead to their scouts. Disabled in a single blow. A maimed opponent is never going to recover. And they're all dead. They're guarding this ruin here, which is going to increase our maximum health by a reasonable amount. And you may have noticed that we accomplished a challenge back there by doing the 4-hit combo on our first opponent. Bamusu is so confident in his protege that he's even supplied us with a variety of stipulations that if we manage to accomplish while we're killing everybody, we'll be rewarded. One of them involves the Fua Toko Fahu combo, which if we check the moves list, shows us that when we have a focused target, we can pepper in the other face buttons for variety of combos. A lot to remember the Fahu technique there. And I'm about sick of seeing my health all the time. Moving that completely eliminates all HUD elements, which makes for a very nice, elegant experience. They'll be showing up when they're absolutely necessary. We know up there's a major encampment. Can't seem to find the perch to check it out again, but that's fine. We can't really approach it with much strategy, because as soon as we hit the top of the ladder, a horn goes off. Interrupted my combo there. These enemies are usually pretty slow and can't do that, but there was our requisite combo. Very brutal. And again, for good measure, Challenge 5 was to kill 9 focused enemies, which we managed to accomplish pretty handily. Just a test of whether we've mastered the focus beam this early in the game, as it will be very essential throughout the rest of it. As Kuzo is in flight, you can hit triangle to skip the rest of the animation, but it often gives you some nice scenery. You can also use Kuzo, in addition to his scouting capacity, to collect items that are along his path. And doing so is one of our challenges. I think it's safe to say at this point that this is no mere Disney-inspired action-adventure. It's got its own very brutal aesthetic. And I assure you, we have seen absolutely nothing yet. Very eager to show off more. The alternate Fahu combo. Equally brutal impalement. Now a very wide open area. I was kind of shooting for that perch, but I activated the birds along the way, and that gave away our position. You have to be aware of almost everything in your environment. And this larger enemy is going to provide much more of a challenge. He strikes much more quickly. He can interrupt our combos and block many of our attacks. There's always the chance you can sneak in a combo against them, get an easy kill that way, which is always extremely satisfying. I should mention that I wanted to do this Let's Play, not only because The Mark of Kree is one of my old favorites, not only because it's a beautiful and unique experience, but also because this is a precursor to one of my favorite games, the 2010 remake of Splatterhouse. This will become much more apparent later on, but any similarities you notice are more than coincidence. Kuzo has provided the information we need. A single opponent lies at the top of this structure to our right. They had with him some odd statue. Very shiny and pretty, so we definitely want it. And he had no chance of defending it. This is our first Tuku statue. There's one in every level. That also provides an ultimate reward much later on. But rather than just save our collection of that, let's use our recently acquired save scroll. We can set down a checkpoint for our progress right here. And take a break to admire this beautiful vista. Next time we will continue our battle against banditry, but for now, the story has ended.